All right then. So, hi friends. I am heading off to Flowcamp in just a little over an hour. So I'm going to do a quick little live video here for the YouTubes, probably for like the next half an hour to 40 minutes or so. So yeah, this is going to be me jamming out in my living room. And for those of you guys watching out there, you can ask me questions or make requests or anything like that. One of those things that I've been playing around with this week that I really dig is I got a hold of Sheridan Miller's 3D printed mods for palm grips, and I've been playing around with them. They require a little bit of work to like kind of get to the bottom of how they get assembled and everything, but I've actually really been enjoying them. The weight is great, and just overall, I find that they're a good balance for the heads on my Frankenpoi. Of course, I am using night eyes in these, and I'm using white night eyes because I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the brightest color that I'm going to find with these and everything. So this weekend, these new handles get a nice tryout out at Flowcamp in Kentucky. Yeah, so I am just playing around with them right now. Those of you guys watching out there, if you have any questions for me, you are free to throw those out there. I did not plan on doing this live session right here, but hey, why not? It's been several months since I've done a YouTube live video, so I thought I would give you guys just a few minutes of my time before I head out to Flowcamp. I think one of the things that I really like about these inserts that Sheridan has created are that they basically, the weight and feel of the palms is pretty close to what it would be if there were washers in them. So, you know, switching off into my gunslinger work and everything is pretty easy. But I want to run them through their paces. What are some good moves to learn as a beginner? Asked somebody whose name has many QWERTY things in it. And also, you are so good. Why, thank you. So good moves to learn as a beginner. I would honestly say that the first like 4-ish things you ought to learn as a beginner. Number one, how to do the forwards and reverse weaves and be able to waist strap in between them. How to do basic stalls, that is like down and out stalls. How to do just simple hip reels in together same like this, as well as how to do windmills. Because all 4 of those tricks are pretty easy to combo together if you want to. Oh, and butterflies too. So let's make that 5 tricks, sorry. But yeah, for a lot of people when I'm giving them private lessons that are beginners, these are the first 5 tricks that I'll start them on, and we'll work on putting them together into a fuller combo after some time, yeah? So yeah, that would be my recommendation there. Give me just 1 second because the comments on YouTube are set up such that they only pop up for like a couple seconds right when they come in. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all this up on my laptop so I can read these comments as they're coming in and have some time to be able to get back and forth with them, yeah? Sorry, this will only be a second. And cool, there's all those comments, fantastic. Aaron Gurok, hi Drex, I'm a huge fan of yours. Hi Aaron, I'd love to become a huge fan of yours too. Synchronize, will you show me snakes as slow as possible? I can't get them down. Sure. Okay, so here is like literally all the pieces that you need for them. Some of this stuff shows up in the 1-minute tutorial that I did on snakes, and some of it doesn't, simply because, you know, time is a thing. But the first step you need to work with is just that you're going to learn how to do linear isolations, which involve turning the poi clockwise at your left-hand side, drop it down your midline, and then pull it out going clockwise again over to your right-hand side. You then pop the poi head up your midline and sneak your hand underneath it, yeah? So you got the down and back up, the down and back up. What changes when you turn this into a snake is that both the down as well as the back up occur around your shoulders. So the down goes like you're gonna wear your poi like a backpack and then push it out. And the up is like you're gonna itch your armpit with your thumb or something, right? So you practice this going back and forth and everything. And then you practice doing the opposite with your left hand, where you're over here on your right hand side, and of course it's turning clockwise and everything. And itch the armpit, wear it like a backpack. Itch the armpit, wear it like a backpack, going back and forth, right? Okay, so then the question inevitably is, how do you put these two things together? The first step is to do an old thing that Thomas Johansson, Nevisol, used to do back in the day, wherein he would experiment with getting his hands to clap as the poi were turning around. So you wait until that moment when the poi in your right hand is going up and the poi in your left hand is going down, and you clap your hands together. Clap your hands together. It's all about finding that window, because in most cases, like as we try and clap them together, it's when the two poi are pointed towards each other, right? Which inevitably means that they're going to come in contact, which we don't want to have happen. It's waiting for that up-down moment, and that's when you get your hands to go together. Now, when you get this down, you take that up-down moment, and that's when you bring the poi around your shoulders, like so, and bring them back, yeah? So clap them together, switch them out. That is how you put snakes together. The video is looking a little dark, so I'm going to turn on a couple more lights if you guys don't mind. Let's there be lights. All right, let's see what other questions have popped up in that time. Oh my God, that's a fat cat. Yes, it is. Yeah, that's Theo over there, and Theo needs to go on a bit of a diet. What is a cat eye? I love all the toys hanging in the wall in the background. Thank you so much for teaching us. You're gonna make it easy to learn. Hallelujah! Although practice is also a big factor. Yes, it is. Can you show that trick you did with snakes like pirouette? Okay, so first up, cat eyes. Aside from being the things that are in Theo's skull when she looks at me with a mixture of disdain and a need to be cuddled, cat eyes are these right here. I just uploaded a 1-minute tutorial the other day on how to do a horizontal variation on these. And essentially what cat eyes are your hand going one way and the poi completing a single beat going the other way. There's some disagreement as to whether or not these are an anti-spin move. I personally do think of them as being an anti-spin trick. In my mind, these are a 2-petal anti-spin flower, but there's some disagreement on that score. Essentially, cat eyes are your hand moving around a circle the size of an isolation and the poi completing an ellipse around it. Why this is controversial is that we don't have a really solid definition of what a petal in a flower is, so we don't have a really solid definition of what a flower is. Some people think that flowers are only shapes in which you have discrete kind of cut off areas or lobes. So in that case, the smallest anti-spin flower you can do is a triquetra, which has 3 petals. There are some people that think that you know, a cat eye is just a single petal anti-spin flower. And again, we don't have one good definition for flowers, so you can get into debates about this, and ultimately it doesn't resolve to very much. If you can do the cat eye, good. So doing the cat eye, hi there Theo, is a matter of starting with the poi on your center line, pulling your hand out to one shoulder and the poi to the opposite shoulder. You drop it down, pull your hand across and the poi head to the opposite shoulder, and you go back and forth like this. You want to have your hand and the poi hit your center line as they go down each time. This is really a matter of bouncing your hand back and forth from shoulder to shoulder. A lot of people will make the mistake of just letting their hand come up their center line, and it's really something that has to travel from side to side. Think that you're trying to overshoot it. Think that you're reaching just past your shoulder going both directions, yeah? After you get to be pretty good at this, or it starts to feel comfortable, you wait for that moment when the poi is coming up against the opposite shoulder from the one that your hand is attached to, and boom, you give it just a little bit of extra momentum to pop it over your hand, and you sneak your hand underneath. And then you return to that little bounce going across the bottom. And then you just try and get like 2 or 3 of them in a row, and eventually it'll start to feel pretty solid. When it starts to feel even more solid, you can put it together with an isolation. This was like one of the first tech poi tricks that I ever learned, and it's still one of my favorites, isolation versus cat eye. Really, really beautiful anti-brid. Yeah, so that's cat eyes and a couple things that you can do with them. What are your favorite hybrids? Oh, the trick where you do snakes like a pirouette. I'm not sure what you mean by snakes like a pirouette. I do on occasion do that trick, which is kind of snake-like, and it's based upon something that Thomas Nevisol does, where essentially, you know when I was talking about the snakes before, there was like kind of a clap that you try and do to do the first part of the snake. Well, you do that clap and you keep your hands together and you just pirouette around it. Boom, like so. I don't know if that's specifically what you were asking about, but that's the closest thing I could think of when it comes to such things. Yeah, that one. Hallelujah. Good. What are your favorite hybrids to perform? A couple, actually. So, there are some VTG style hybrids that I just can't get enough of. One of them is this 4-pedal anti-spin versus 2-pedal in-spin. And it's mainly just because it offers a lot of good transition points into split time same direction tricks, or tricks that feel like they're split time same direction. One of which, of course, being another favorite hybrid of mine, which is Tri-Catcher versus Pendulum. I love this hybrid to death, and I probably overuse it. Again, just simply because I like the lines that it produces. The big aha moment for me with these came when I took a class from Ronan at Fire Drums several years ago, where he talked about, like, I had always thought that it was just like the top part was the important part, but he really emphasized on either side trying to make sure that you have this moment where the 2 poi are basically like tabletop, horizontal lines before you go into the 2 anti-spin pedals on the bottom, right? And that's really useful for doing things like switching into horizontal planes, or switching into horizontal stacks, depending upon how you want to play it. They're just really useful. I also love the cap versus pendulum. Again, I probably use this just a little too much, but I find it's such a great home base for getting into so many other hybrids that when I teach people how to do anti-brids, this is usually the first one that I give them, just because it's so incredibly useful and there's so many other hybrids you can get to from it. And finally, this one, static spin versus Tri-Catcher, which, again, I probably overuse this one, but it's one of those ones that, like, when you really rip it out fast like this, guaranteed applause from the audience. It's awesome, because it's one of those rare tricks that, like, feels good from a technical perspective, and audiences totally dig it, so it fills that very, very unique niche, which I think a lot of us as performers look for. Can you give a few tips about the one-handed butterfly, and do you have any tips on gunslinger flowers? Sure, I can answer both of those questions. So first and foremost, one-handed butterflies. So one-handed butterflies, there's a couple tricks to these. The first is that you have to start developing plane control with your pinky end, which is something that you've never had to do before you try doing these particular tricks. And there's a great way to practice this, and that's if I turn sideways here, you're going to notice that my planes are not straight up and down. They're in like an X, where the thumb side poi is tilted slightly back towards me on top and away from me on bottom. And as I'm doing this, what I'll try and do is I'll actually separate out the planes even more to a more aggressive kind of X, and then bring them back to a more vertical place. Separate them out to that aggressive X, and then back to vertical, where when you go wide like this, you're almost doing like a corkscrew, a one-handed corkscrew. In fact, you can transition back and forth between them using that point. But what this will do is it'll start to teach your hand to keep these two planes separate, which is absolutely essential for getting down this one-handed butterfly. Yeah, that's the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is work on that a lot, because without that kind of separation of your poi planes, the rest of it's going to be really, really hard. The next question was about gunslinger flowers. So specifically, I can't wrap my head around the transition points. I'm not sure what you mean by transition points, but I'm going to guess that you mean these points where you're going back and forth between your 2-beat thumb lead and your 2-beat pinky lead, which that moment is what we were talking about earlier. Actually, it's our old friend, the linear isolation, where you have an end of the poi that goes straight up your midline or straight down your midline and allows your hand to go past it. Now, this is trickier with gunslingers because you have to be very careful about what the pinky end is doing as your hand is sneaking, or the opposite end is doing as you're sneaking past. So as I'm going from forwards to reverse, it's my thumb end that pops up. And as I'm going from reverse to forwards, it's my pinky end that pops down. So I usually find that one of those big like aha moments for this comes when you can go from thumb lead to pinky lead, and you really have to be thinking that you are putting a whole bunch of juice behind that pinky end as soon as the thumb end goes up. It's not just a simple matter of, okay, thumb end goes up, and then now we're going to move over. It has to be a really, really active engagement with the pinky end almost instantly. And, you know, a lot of people who are used to, like, doing the 4-beat reverse, that is the thumb lead on the reverse side, have problems with getting that plane placement correct, where the pinky end has to come down like in a buzzsaw kind of place on the inside of your arm in order to make that work. Let me do it with 2 poi in one hand to give you a better idea of what I'm talking about here. I'm going to switch my thumb end poi here to an amber light so it's easier to tell the difference between the two, yeah? So as I make this turn, the amber one goes up and the blue one, woo! My apartment is not that big, so I'm trying very hard not to hit things as I'm doing this. Case in point. So, as the amber one goes up, the blue one sneaks underneath and it instantly goes between my arms. We wind up in a position like this, where it should be able to rub up against my chest and everything. Which, if you're used to switching to the 4-beat, you know that the pinky end stays on the outside. So you have to be able to switch the plane to the inside instead to be able to get here. That is the work to be done. Once you've got that, it's really just a simple matter of your hand goes up or it goes down every time there's a linear isolation, and thus the flower happens. Congratulations. Cool. Wow, there's a whole bunch of stuff that came in while I was teaching that. Also, just a thing, for those of you guys who are out there that want to help me out in the work that I'm doing, YouTube has enabled something called a super chat for me, which means that if you guys want to like tip me for the things that I'm doing, you're allowed to do that in the chat, which would be awesome and I'd really appreciate it. No pressure though. Going back up here, one-handed butterfly, got it. Do you have a trick that you've learned new? There's a trick that I've done that needs a lot of refinement, but essentially I've been playing around with anti-spin gunslinger flowers for so long now that I'm really eager to get into the world of in-spin gunslinger flowers, that is these. And they kind of require rewriting a lot of the motor skills associated with learning the anti-spin gunslingers. So I don't have these clean to a point where I can like really go in depth with them. Like, I'd love to be able to do all the VTG hybrids with gunslingers, but I need to get the in-spins down before that can happen. And there are just things that pop up by and by, you know, having to get videos done and going to events like Flowcamp, which I'm going to be leaving for in like a half an hour. And so I just haven't had the time to go through and polish it, but that will probably be the work that I'll do over the course of the winter. Because, you know, last winter's work was learning how to do gunslingers, which took like a good 3 months of intensive work. And we will see if the in-spin gunslingers take the same amount of work or not. Yeah. Cool, cool. Now, 8-leaf question mark? Oh, so you're talking about the gunslinger flowers, yes? The gunslinger flowers are not 8-petal, they're actually 10-petal. Part of the way that you can tell that is because of the linear isolations going both ways. So we know that the thumb end is going up at the top and the pinky end is going down at the bottom, right? So this means that each of these so both the thumb end and the pinky end have to be creating a flower with an odd number of petals. So it's either going to be a 3-petal pattern on each side or a 5-petal pattern on each side. And it just, you know, you do the beat count for it, which is that you're going from a 2-beat to a 2-beat. So it's got to be a total of 4 beats. 4 beats in anti-spin gives us 5 petals. Each end is doing 5 petals, so it's a 10-petal. Yeah. Oh my God! Somebody gave $10. Thank you so much. Lisa W. Thank you so much. Oh my God. Sweet. Is there anything you'd like to learn about today, Lisa? I'd be more than happy to teach you. Sorry, I'm scrolling back up to see. Dude, thanks for giving the world so much love and light. I love teaching things. Anything cool? I love teaching things too. Thank you, Roderick. Troy Higgins, yes. Roderick Walker, thanks so much. Love and blessings. Love and blessings to you too, buddy. Powderhorn 916 asks, what do you think of the new OVO grip handles? I need to get some new handles and I was wondering if you'd recommend them. So, funny story. I have a review of OVO handles that are going live on my YouTube channel tomorrow. So, you asked for it, you get it. I have played with them a bunch. They are... Where did I stick them? Oh, there they are. I've played with them a whole bunch. My impressions of them are they're much, much heavier than traditional palm grips, which is good if you're playing around with gunslingers. And they're a little bit of an adjustment for me because I like my handles super duper light. That said, they have an enormous cavity on the inside. You can actually weigh these down so much that they are the same weight as capsule handles, but they're like half as big. So if you're part of the gunslinger crowd, great investment. Also, I'm absolutely positive that companies are going to start making LED inserts for these because Lantern Smith wants them to do that, number one. And number two, the cavity is twice as big as it was, actually I think it's 4 times as big, no, it's twice as big, excuse me, as it was for the palm grips. So there's a lot of opportunities there to be able to hack these. More detailed description of the features and my thoughts are going to go live in my review tomorrow. So thank you for asking. You're the best. No, you're the best. Let's see here. In your opinion, when learning flowers, do you recommend starting early or wait until you master the basics? So this is a thing that I think we constantly do wrong in teaching people poi. Flowers should be the basics. Flowers make a lot of sense. They're easy to teach. They give you freedom of movement right from the get-go. If I'm starting off and I'm learning, you know, 3-beat weaves and flowers and everything, you notice how both of these moves keep my hands really close to my body? Whereas if I'm learning flowers, I'm really, really better able to more explore the environment around me with my hands. I don't get into kind of training myself to keep my hands close by. And the other thing that goes wrong when we start with, you know, weaves and butterflies is people get really dead set on I have to keep the poi turning. And when we start off learning flowers and everything, we're starting off from a place where our hands are doing the driving and the poi has to follow. And I always find that when people start off with weaves and butterflies, that they wind up in a place where I have to go back and reteach them how to control turning their poi. So they're not like constantly trying to make it happen, but just letting it flow out with the movement of their hands, right? Which really is the place that you want to get to if you're gonna find freedom of movement with it. So I think that we ought to be teaching flowers as the basic poi trick. I think that's where we ought to start. And then once people have their flowers down, then we're just kind of like, okay, so, you know, let's try things like body tracers, where, you know, okay, you've got your anti-spin flowers or even your in-spin flowers, and you can, you know, do a beat behind your body and wrecking your tool cabinet. And then gradually find smaller and smaller areas with those and find your way to thread the needles and weaves off of that. And that actually is something that I would like to do as an online course if there is people out there that are interested in this sort of thing. So yeah, if you are interested in it, let me know. Oh my goodness, somebody else gave, hooray! Modular Muscle, thank you so much. I'm going to jump you in line because I really appreciate the $10. I'll go back and get everybody else's questions too, though. I'm 2 weeks into poi and just grasped the two-thirds beat weave. Okay. I want to show this off at a party this weekend. Can you recommend 1 or 2 more beginner moves, transitions that I should prioritize next? Oh, so you've learned both the 2-beat and the 3-beat. Roger that. Cool. Yeah, so if you've got your 2-beat and 3-beat weaves done, here's what I would recommend. Add in stalls and butterflies. Basically because those are moves that are really easy to transition back and forth to if you already have your 3-beat weaves down. Specifically, so just with your dominant hand, you're going to want to learn how to do down stalls and bottom stalls. That is like pointing the poi down to stop it moving and kind of pitching it out to stop it moving. The butterfly, of course, you know, you start with big hands doing it and you gradually work your way smaller. Honestly, butterflies, you can teach yourself how to do them in like an afternoon maybe. And then you pitch out with your dominant hand, go into your 3-beat weave. Stall down with your dominant hand, keep the other poi rotating, get into a butterfly. Just go back and forth between these two things, and it's a really, really slick-looking transition. Yeah, so good luck with that this weekend. Report back and let me know how that went for you. Let's see here. Aaron Gurok, I'm really broke right now and I really want to help you out. I'm going to do it on Patreon later. Yay! Yeah, for anybody who can't help me out right now in the Super Chat, which thank you to both of the people who've donated to me on the Super Chat thus far, because that's amazing. Yeah, you can also support me on Patreon, patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. That literally is how I eat and pay rent right now. So thank you to any of you guys out there who are Patreon supporters, because it means the world to me. Sorry, I'm trying to catch back. Okay, so Altus Clura is asking, in your opinion, when... Oh, yeah, so I already answered that one. Aaron Gurok is saying, thanks a lot, I have thousands of questions to ask you, but want... So final question about props. Do you suggest e-poi over pod poi? No, I don't. So here's the best answer I can give you on this, e-poi versus pod poi. Pod poi are way more flexible. They have more uses, they're soft, they're forgiving. If you need more weight, e-poi are a great place to go. They have some issues they need to work out with the tethers on e-poi, even now. But, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, the Amazing Lights folks are coming from a very, very different place in terms of who they create products for. I spent enough time around glovers now to know that, like, what they really focus on is the software instead of the hardware. So they create poi that are kind of built around, you know, creating programs and seeing specific modes come out and everything. And I think this is part of where they got themselves into trouble, is they thought that the hardware wasn't important and just everybody was more or less ripping off the same hardware, which they weren't. And so in most cases, I think the pod poi are going to be the better way to go. If you're one of those people that wants to go deep dive into different modes, the e-poi might be a good fit for you. If you need heavier poi, the e-poi might also be a good fit for you. But yeah, they still need to figure out the tethers. That's their. They now have it so you can remove the capsules from inside of them, which is really, really helpful and makes it much easier to charge them up. But yeah, that's my thought on that. Any tips for fishtails? God, so fishtails practice. Here's the thing: is there's no tip I can give you that's going to be the magical aha moment for fishtails. You know, you just, God, I haven't even done them myself in so long. But you're essentially just looking to create pendulums that go back and forth. So you're going from the front side of your body, to the back side of your body. And I should, cool, back side, front side. And you're just looking to try and get enough of a lift off of it that it's going to rotate freely enough in your hand to get from side to side. And fishtails are one of the hardest things I have ever had to learn on poi. So the no BS is it's just going to take time and practice. If you're at a point where you can do 2 beats of it, that's awesome. That's a great place to start. I was at 2 beats for the better part of a month, and build from 2 beats to 3 beats, from 3 beats to 5 beats, and from 5 beats to 10 beats. And eventually, I could just go endurance on it, but I haven't trained like that on it for quite some time. So yeah, practice. Craft Academy. We're really struggling on choosing hardware, swivels, etc. Contact poi looks super cool, but are there downsides to having no metal swivels? Not really. I mean, unless you're really, really hardcore about doing orbitals, there's really no reason to have them, to be honest with you. The kind of, I guess I would call it, the torque that gets introduced to a poi tether, it resolves itself in most cases, unless you're using chain. Like rope is flexible, so rope will just kind of figure itself out on that. So yeah, there's no real downside unless you want to play with orbitals real bad. Just beginning, this is way over my head. Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks for all the basic tips you have online. My pleasure. Aaron Gurok. Oh, I already saw that one. Wow, I'm so very bad at keeping track of all these. Love you. You are the best YouTuber. Well, thank you, but I don't think I'm the best YouTuber. There are a lot of other people out there that are doing great work on YouTube, but I appreciate it. Do you know of a good way to figure out how long your poi should comfortably be? Funny you should ask, because that is going to be the topic of next Thursday's video, which is already edited in the hopper and everything. The short answer: start off with a length that goes from your thumb joint to the crease of your shoulder and see what works for you. See if you want shorter or longer poi based upon that. Yeah. I've been wondering about this too. Ordered some pod poi today. Cool, thanks so much. I got a question for you. How much does some light poi cost? You can get into a set of poi for 20 bucks. Spinball's one of the companies that supports my channel. They actually make a really, really good set of beginner poi for 20 bucks. They're very, very, very light, but they are LED poi, and if you just want to start off and not make a huge investment, they're probably a good way to go. If you're looking, and bear in mind, you're probably going to have to upgrade after a year or 2 with those, but they're a good place to start. Wow. The interface for the chat is really interesting on my side, by the way, where it's really easy to scroll completely past a whole bunch of different things. So, pod poi for 100, yeah, that sounds about right. I'd say transition between both 3-beat and weaves, and learn transition between weaves and windmill. Yeah, that's also a good transition. If you've got your 3-beat weaves and you have your windmills, first poi transition I ever learned was going back and forth from forwards to reverse weave and then up into the windmill. Fun fact, I originally learned how to do the windmill going this way, and I learned how to do my waist straps going this way. So I had this awful moment in the first 3 months that I was spinning where I had to decide if I was going to learn how to do the weaves going the opposite direction or if I was going to learn how to do the windmill going the opposite direction. And I just chose to relearn the windmill going the opposite direction. And eventually I had to learn the waist strap too, but this got me started at least, yeah? Cool. And I'm nearing the end of the chat, I think, here. I see you, Locombia. Okay. Hi from the Middle East. Hi there. That is from Noura Saleh. What country in the Middle East are you from, Noura? I would love to go travel through there someday. I've always wanted to see the Holy Land. How has the Poi community changed when you started versus now? Technology has made a huge difference in the spinning community. When I started off, I think I started the year after YouTube was first created, and because of that, by the time I was interested in learning new tricks, stuff that the people around me couldn't teach me anymore. YouTube was there, and specifically Nick Woolsey was there, and that made a huge difference in my being able to progress and learn how to spin as time went on. And clearly it has for a lot of other people too. I mean, at this point I have over 3 million subscribers on, 3 million views on my account. I have 27,000 subscribers, which that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that are interested in learning how to spin Poi. That's really cool. We have a gigantic community out there. And I think that wasn't really possible until Poi entered into the online space. So the ways that technology has changed our world are probably the biggest thing. Because when I first got on, everybody was exchanging ideas via text on online forums like Home of Poi and Tribe.net and everything. And there was a lot of misunderstandings about what people were talking about. And the proliferation of online video completely changed that. And it made it easier for interesting ideas to go and spread around and give rise to other ideas. Like, the whole horizontal stacking thing came out of 2 tricks that appear in one of Mel's videos, Red Pants, from like 6 or 7 years ago. And this just gigantic framework comes out of probably 5 to 10 seconds worth of content, which is really cool. So yeah, that's the biggest difference that I've seen for sure. Let's see here. Hi, I'm from Wales in the UK. Awesome. The most beautiful transition to do is from Superman into one-headed butterfly. Is pretty nice. Yes, I agree. It is pretty nice. Yeah. So, wow, I actually caught up with the chat. That's amazing. Cool. So I have like another 10 minutes that I'm probably going to do this for. So keep those questions coming in. And again, if any of you guys want to help me out, you can tip me straight up in the chat right there, or you can support me on Patreon. Either one is really helpful, and no stress if you can't, because God only knows I have very limited means myself, so I totally understand not being able to throw something in there. But yeah. Also, like, I think I've talked about this in just about every live chat I've done on every other platform that I'm on, including Instagram and Facebook in the past few months. But the other major hurdle I've been trying to climb is just cleaning this trick up right here, which is a gunslinger anti-brid. And it's a bit of a challenge because getting the bottom corner of it is where I always lose the point of contact between my hand and the opposite Poi head. And yeah, it takes a little bit of work, but I believe there's something incredibly cool waiting at the end of the rainbow. My blue light on ePoi went out. Oh, interesting. I bought both Pod Poi and ePoi, and the ePoi are twice as bright. Yeah, the ePoi are like crazy bright. And I didn't find out until after I'd done my review that you can actually control the brightness, which was super embarrassing. But yeah, you can control the brightness. But yeah, the new Pod Poi are going to be out next year, and they will actually be brighter than ePoi. I've seen the beta sets that they're kind of developing right now, and they're going to be super bright, super duper bright. But yeah, I've also found that there are some dependability issues with the ePoi. Again, mainly in the tether. The first versions of the tethers were held together by split rings, and the split rings have a bad tendency to like be pulled open and start to chew through the tether. And they switched those out for solid rings, but I think they're also, you know, it's better, but you know, when I was doing the video shoot for the Epoi, actually one of the tethers burst open. And like, it was really funny because you can't tell this on the video because I'm keeping them spinning too fast, but every time I would stop for a second, it'd like swell up and like all the guts of it would start spilling out and everything. So I had to swap them out for the older set of Epoi that I had. But yeah, the tethers need work. Let's see here. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Noura is in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Awesome. I would really, God, I'd love to come visit the Middle East. Yeah. How is the flow scene in Saudi Arabia? Are there a lot of other folks like you that like to spend things, or are you kind of just only connecting with the online community there? Because I've spun with people in Africa and in quite a few places in Europe, but sadly never outside of that. Douglas Patterson. Joe Fleming. What festivals are you going to this fall and winter? I am leaving for Flowcamp in about 20 minutes here, and that is my last festival of the year. After that, I am taking it easy and settling into my new apartment, which I cannot wait for, let me tell you. Douglas Patterson says hi from Scotland, the UK. That's awesome. Are you trying to remember, my friend Keith Marshall, I think he's from Edinburgh, which I know that there's like plenty of cities in Scotland, but if you're from Edinburgh and you happen to know Keith, say hi for me. Somebody asked a question in Cyrillic, and unfortunately I do not speak Russian and I don't know how to read Cyrillic. Do you ever come to Europe to do festivals or courses? Yeah, I actually came to Europe in June to teach at Polna Vyplamnik for the Pyroterra team and to do a promo video for Visual Poi version 4. I would love to come back. I've now had 2 instances where I've been nearby the European Juggling Convention and didn't go. The answers for which are kind of complicated why that happened, but yeah, I'd love to come back. There's a gentleman who reached out to me about doing workshops in Germany, and I think that that would be really fun too. So perhaps next year. Yeah, that would be fun. I would really enjoy that. Your videos really helped me with the 3-beat weave. Noura, excellent, cool. I hope you're teaching other people how to do it now too. Henry Vargas, I've started to learn Russian. Cool, can you tell me what this lovely person is saying then? Do you have any tips for learning hyperloops? And just want to say hello to you. Hi from Moscow. Oh, huzzah. Lisa W. is asking, what's your Patreon info again? It is patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. And you can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and it's pretty awesome because you get access to my Patreon feed, which includes things like polls, so you can vote on topics that I'm going to cover in videos, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff. When I edit something that I'm really proud of, I'll usually throw the first draft of the edit on my Patreon feed for people to watch. And also now I'm doing blooper reels. I'll do like, 3 months worth of tracking my bloopers as I'm recording videos and putting that out to my Patreon supporters, which they apparently really dig. So that's pretty cool. Altus Clara gave me $5. Thank you, Altus. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, because that's pretty badass. Yeah, thank you so much for supporting me. It really means a lot. Let's see here. Nora says, I think I'm the only one that's interested in Poi here. Well, that's no good. You should start up spin jams in Saudi Arabia and see if you can get other people on board. I don't know if you've, so a while back there's a nonprofit that I briefly did a little bit of work for called Skatistan, and their whole thing was they went to Kabul like right after the US invasion back in like 2001, and just as like a cool thing to bring people together, they taught skateboarding clinics in Kabul, and it was this really, really beautiful thing that gave the kids something to look forward to other than gigantic world powers fighting over their particular stretch of the Indian subcontinent. So yeah, go out and teach some Poi, put on some spin jams, see if that's a good way to bring people together in your neck of the world. Let's see here. I'm in Hereford, UK. Gotcha. Recently started spinning poi. Your channel is my go-to source for tutorials. Hey, excellent. I'm glad to hear. So whenever being in DC, like I have my people that I hang out with and everything, but by and large, I don't really have much of a connection between the content I create and the people that watch it. So all I see is like numbers on a screen, and it's very, very abstract. And then every once in a while, I'll go out to a flow festival, and somebody will be like, you know, oh, I've watched every single one of your tech blogs, and I'm just kind of like, that takes a lot of patience. Well done, well done. So it's good having names to go with those numbers. So thank you. That is very, very good to hear. Yeah, and come to PoiCon in Russia. I would love to come to PoiCon. If you know the organizers, reach out to them, because I would love to come to PoiCon. That actually came up in conversation just the other day when I was talking with Prisna from Flow Toys. Tony Haggins, what's a great contact poi length? Just brought new Flow on Fire contact LED poi, and I want to know a good length. I mentioned this earlier, but I have a video on that topic that's coming out next Thursday. It's already edited and ready to go, which is awesome. And my recommendation is that everybody start off with a length that is basically from the joint, the first joint of their thumb to the crease of their shoulder, basically the full length of your arm, because it's long enough for contact and it's short enough that you can still do, you know, wrap up your poi and very easily do insides work, like these introversions and the like. So yeah, start off there and then work from there and see what you want. Generally speaking, like for contact poi, longer tethers are also really good, because the source of the momentum when you're doing contact poi is the tether itself. So the longer the tether, the longer the roll that you're going to get out of it. There's something of a myth that that is more due to the size of the poi head. And the fact of the matter is that with any size poi head, you can get a roll however long you want. It more comes down to the length of your tether. So that's what I would recommend there. Do you do the hyper duper Uber loops? Yes, I do orbitals on occasion. Not very often, but I do them. Yeah, like I did a video a while back showing like things that you can do with them, and it's just that it puts the poi in such a place where number one, they're tangled, and number two, they're moving so fast that it's hard to react to them, so I don't get a lot of use out of them. That said, that's fertile ground if other people want to play there. Just checking out the Flowcamp website. Looks amazing. So jealous of everyone attending. Yes, you should attend at some point. It's a really beautiful place. I'm learning from you and play poi alone. There are a few fellow artists in my community. I appreciate you so much and would love to attend a class if possible. Do you ever travel and do classes? Yes. Next year and this fall, that is the plan to work on, is to just tour by myself and teach poi classes directly to people. I've gotten a lot out of the festival circuit, but at the same time, I had a good enough experience teaching workshops just myself at Flow Toys right after Burning Man that I want to do some more of that. So be on the lookout. What part of the country are you from? Because I want to like do probably an East Coast tour in the fall, and then maybe in the spring a Midwest tour, and take it from there. That roll you did from mid-arm to your hand, any tips? You mean this one? Yeah, so this is just a matter of like, you catch the tether as it's coming up. It basically winds up wrapped around your arm, like so. So the poi is like trapped in the crook of your elbow, and you just literally throw the handle away and let it roll back out to your hand. And the challenge with any contact trick is that the surface that the ball travels over has to more or less remain stable the entire time. You can't like dip it down or bring it up. Like if you do this, you're almost certainly going to lose the poi. So keeping your arm stable is the big thing to learn and all that. Cool. I'm going to have to wrap it up here in the next couple minutes, guys, because I have to get to the airport. Thank you so much. I love and respect everything you do for the community. Thank you. Thank you for being out there. Oh, I never knew it wrapped like that. Yeah, that's the trick. I did not know that until, I think it was, who showed me that? It might have been, it was either Keith Marshall or Cyril back in the day. And the wrapping around your hand was something that made no sense to me at first, and then finally like came together, and it was awesome. Thanks, Drex, again. You rock. Yay! I live in central Wisconsin. Going. Okay, that was weird. Sorry, it just dropped out there for a second. But yeah, I would love to come to Atlanta for a teaching tour, and I would love to come to Wisconsin for a teaching tour as well. Yeah, sorry. Somebody called me, and it interrupted the stream off my phone. But yes, I would love to hit up both of those in a Midwest tour. That'd be great. And our Russian friend is asking to see gunslingers. I will show you some gunslingers, and that will be it for me. One more time. Woo! If anybody wants to help me out a little bit with my work, you can tip me direct on the live chat here using the super chat function. If not, you can find me at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. If you can't afford either one, that's totally fine. God only knows. I am sometimes poor myself. But I am looking forward to going to Flowcamp this weekend, and I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in and asking me such great questions and giving me a chance to connect with each and every one of you out there. So, thank you guys all out there in the online world, and I will see you again soon. Peace.